He's talking about something that happened on the way to the Gainesville race.
I know.
Gainesville's St. Patrick's Day almost every year, and he's saying November. That's Italian dating.
Hi, everybody. John Sirer here, CKiW iRADIO 76, and you're in all four gears. Hi, everybody. John Sirer here. We are with another living legend, and the room's already warmed up. It is Jack McCormack is here. Jack, we're so glad to see you with us. All right off the top, we better get to the Tignanelli story that happened in, I guess, Florida. Now, we've heard the plaintiff's version.
Oh, it wasn't that big a deal. I was leaving with a truck and a pickup truck and a chaparral trailer, a wife and 3 kids. He was leaving in an 18-wheeler and his brother, the two of them. He said, "I'll race you to Florida." You know how many extra pit stops I had to make other than him? So we got down there, and he crossed from Georgia into Florida, and a little while later comes up on the back of the trailer and realizes mine that I'm ahead of him, and he loses his mind. So he's going to pass me. Except I just said, hell, we'll just play NASCAR. You go to left lane, I went to the left lane. Whether I went to the right lane. Finally, I got bored. Not so much the driving, but the screaming. My wife, I couldn't get her out of my right ear, so I pulled her right and I let him go by, and he won. He got to Gainesville ahead of me. I will admit, I lost the bet. Matter of fact, I can still hear her screaming.
We only laugh only because we know this story, and there's a whole camaraderie for the folks that are in the 74 countries and around the world that CKiW iRADIO 76 is in. We've heard this story from Jim Tignanelli now for about a year. You know, it has about 1/8 of what we heard you say it was. It was like, oh yeah, Jack was like so slow, and then we put up the Nitro and we flew over the top, and Jack was spinning out of control, and we went to the left, and then we stood there and we went, Jack, you are the leader.
Only Tignanelli would think you could use Nitro in a diesel tractor. But you should have asked him about the time they got pulled over on the Ohio Turnpike.
Sounds like a story.
Oh,
let us hear this.
He ran his mouth so much that the cop called for another police car, and they pulled him into a service area and unloaded every single part on the ground and said, "Oh, you guys are clean. Have a nice day." 7 hours later, and Tommy said, "When they're gone, I'm killing you." But they had to put it all back in the truck before they go on to the race.
Wait a minute, who was slipping off to who?
Jimmy was to the cops.
Jim was?
Yeah, he who is now the president of POEM, Police Officers Association of Michigan,
right.
Back then was giving the cops a hard time. Oh, he thought he was. They showed him who really had the hard time. But they had to unload the entire truck on the ground. Both cars, all the tools, all the parts.
But why was he lipping off to the cop to cop?
Because he was a young kid. We all did stupid things when we were young. And that's when we had an excuse for them. Now we do them, we have no excuse. We're just stupid. You know? What can I say?
It's amazing. There is that group now. Yourself, Al Bergler, Tignanellis. There's some other folks that I guess show up at a coffee clutch or whatever. That evidently it's not to be missed.
Oh, there's a variety of things. There's a Wednesday night dinner not far from them in Mount Clemens, which is the adjoining town. They're in Clinton Township, and that's a big deal for a lot of us. 30 to 40 people every other Wednesday night, and then there's the Al Pizza lunch every Thursday that we go to down the road here at a restaurant, and it's just there's groups get together everywhere, and the interlap. Some of the guys from here go there. Now there's a bunch of go to the Saturday morning breakfast club. I've not been doing that because morning doesn't interest me. Morning is when you go to a funeral. You don't get up in the morning. If I'm going to mourn, it's going to be because somebody died, not because I had to drag my butt out of bed early no damn morning. See, there's people that think there's 2 5 o'clocks in a day. They's out of their minds.
Yeah, there's only one.
Ain't but one. And it's the evening supper time. Summertime.
I was going to say there's a lot of things that revolve around dinners and foods here with
My
the old
entire
racers.
life.
Yeah, you have to eat all life.
Yep.
Wow. I mean,
Yep.
it's amazing. Jack, what do you think that holds all these guys together? It can't be just the pizza or the coffee.
No, it isn't. I think there's obviously certain age group people that get together for a lot of reasons. We do it because of something that Al Berger once said is very smart. When this group's in the ground, all our knowledge will be in the ground with us. And it's just so much fun to talk about the old days, or even today. Half the time people like the fellow that orchestrates the Wednesday night dinners, Jim Cavallero, used to own Diamond Pistons. Mm-hmm. One of the big topics earlier this year was a 51 Mercury sedan he just bought and brought here from the West Coast, in addition to his 238 Fords. So, and that's something you kind of live the other guy's life a little bit. You can only have so many cars. But if you got 30 buddies, you're almost like part of the other 30 cars. Not financially or physically, but just swapping stories.
But then how do you guys get along so well?
Who said we get along? By picking on each other, I guess,
Yeah, and your favorite target?
Myself. Because it's so easy. And if I get there ahead of the others, they lose. Because I beat them to it. No, seriously, I don't have any one person I like to pick on particularly.
No Tom?
Oh, Tom's an easy one.
Tom Tignanelli of the Shadowoods team?
Well, yeah. Thomas is a wonderful 77 years old, and I'm 80. And he tries to introduce me as his little brother. He's doing Italian math again. I'm telling you, it's got to be that. But I love him to death. I met him many, many, many years ago. I lived on the east side for 3 years. The rest of my life, I've lived mostly on the west side of Detroit area. But he came by and he said, "Hey, I saw you not in my gas station a little while ago." And I said, "What gas station is that?" And Shadowoods, and we talked a little while. We were at the racetrack out at 26 Mile Road, 94, and he says, "You need those headers welded, bring them down, I'll weld them for you." And he did. 3.5 years later, I got them back. But that was Tom. He meant to do it. The intention was there, Like I told his brother Jimmy, I bought 5 sets while I was waiting for that. But that's all part of the game.
When was this?
70, 72. It was a 68 Mustang. So probably in the early 70s.
And he said, "Leave them with me. I'll fix them up for you." But he forgot to say when.
Well, we didn't get a time designation. I may have screwed up on that one. But at the time, I didn't know Tommy.
I was going to say, the difference between Tommy and Jim is what?
Night and day.
Because,
first of all, Tommy's heavy set, Jimmy's a lightweight. Tommy's an engineer. Jimmy's always had something more exciting, police officer, that sort of thing. You know? It's just, they're brothers. Most brothers are different.
Yeah. Yeah, there is terrifically the difference between the two, especially when you talk to them. I mean, they have kind of like that code. They can talk in shorthand. And all you can do is sit back and watch.
Hope to decipher.
Yeah.
We refer to it as Tignanellis. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, it is. Because Tommy, he'll lock you out. If Tommy, have you ever seen this Jack, when Tommy gets locked into something? There could be like a bomb go off, and he's just still concentrating like no tomorrow. Oh,
he does have what is most assuredly a one-track mind, and Lord knows where it's going. It could be the track to hell for all you know. But Tom gets concentrating on something, and maybe that's why he's good at what he does. He's built funny cars, he's built pro stock cars, he's worked on any kind of street rod and all that. But when he gets after a problem, he's going to fix it. It may take 3.5 years
to weld something up,
but he's going to fix it, and he does get it done.
They do a whole lot. But boy, look at you, Jack. Look at all the automotive stuff that you've been involved in. Drag racing and the 5000s and Indy. And we were just trying to talk about it in a pre-production meeting of all the different facets of auto racing you were involved in.
Well, the one big difference between myself and the Tignanellis and Al Berzer and the Ram Charge and all that, I wasn't a racer. I was the other side of the table. I was a manufacturer's representative. I was a supplier of wheels and tires. And face it, it don't matter what kind of car you race, sooner or later you're going to need tires. I mean, they're an expendable item. Usually, I'd say the average racer needs 3 pair a year of slicks. Front tires will go 2-3 years. But you can always rely on that and all the rumors. Hey, I heard if you put a 9-inch tire on a 10-inch wheel, it'll hook up better. I heard if you drop it down to 8.5, it works better. So they come and buy tires, they come and buy wheels. Hey, there's natural rubber racing tubes that make you go faster. Take the tubes out and it'll be faster yet. I just wait for the new rumor to start, and if there ain't enough rumors going, I'll make one up. Come on, boys, we'll tell you what you need to spend money on this year.
I mean, it is kind of a unique thing to get involved in, because a lot of people want to be the engine builder, or folks want to be the chassis guy or something. You know, when it comes to tires, and you're right, it's like gasoline. You're going to need these.
Well, the other thing is I learned very early on what kind of driver I was. See, they rant and rave, NHRA, make a big deal out of running Ford wide now.
Yeah.
Detroit Dragway was doing it back in the 60s.
Detroit Dragway was?
Oh, hell yeah. I can remember many a time running 4 cars and wondering how come them other 3 got out before me, and figured out maybe I ought to do another facet of this other than the driving. So I had race teams. My first race team I put together was Wheel City, with white cars and black cars with flames on the front and a big wheel on the rear quarter panel, and then orange had faded out. And it said Wheel City Inc. And that was a wholesale store we did our wheel and tire business out of. And back in the late 60s, we were doing $65 million a year. So we weren't doing it too wrong. You know, it was fairly right the way we did it. And that went for quite a while. And then I got the bright idea, there's actually enough business here to specify just the racing stuff, between drag racing and circle track and all that. And because of my purchases through Goodyear for Goodyear drag slicks, I was eligible to buy Goodyear oval track tires, as well as Firestone, Indy 500 tire, all the rest of it. So we started another company, McCormack Racing Enterprises, that did just that. Actually, Jack McCormack, come to think of it. And I started another race team then, changed over some of the cars, left some Wheel City, because I wanted to promote what I was doing currently, not in the past. And then eventually came to the realization that I was going all the time to the races. I mean, I went to every single NHRA national event. Every single, and 80% of the IHRA for 30 or 40 years straight.
Starting when?
60s, yeah. And I belonged to 2 different manufacturers' sponsor council with NHRA. One of them met 4 times a year at national events. So then I ended up, making sure that I was there early enough to make the meeting. So I was spending even more time at national events. And the other one was in town. Very few people realize there's actually a OEM manufacturers sponsor council that's separate from the aftermarket that meets in Detroit. Used to be, because Columbus was such a hard track for the California people to get to, there's no big airport there. So they'd fly into Detroit, they'd rent a room for a day or 2 over at Michigan and Southfield Freeway at the big hotel, and you'd get a conference room, and we'd go there and meet with all the OEM representatives. So I did that too. But it got to the point my hands were so full, I couldn't handle anything I was doing. I had an excellent manager who had brought his wife in to work with him at McCormack Racing, and I sold it to him, and it's now McCormack Racing. They just took the Jack off, the first name off. Don't ever say hi, Jack. If you
yeah, I was going to say,
yeah. You're going to refer to that other comment I just made. But anyhow, it is McCormack Racing Enterprises now, wherein in the past it was Jack McCormack Racing Enterprises. But I still knew where it was. I found my way there anyhow, even after they changed the name. So I fooled them,
Job well done.
Then along comes the bright idea that maybe I ought to make a living doing something and stay in one place. So I started McCormack Motorsports, which is where we are now. And it represented manufacturers at races, at trade shows, at good guy events, at NSRA and MRA and all that sort of thing. And at one point, I had close to 20 tractor trailers on the road every weekend, going to various setting up an awning off the side of the trailer, displays under the awning, and lights for the evening, and all the rest of that. And that's where I retired 3 years ago, and I was going to.
You retired?
Well, I quit going to the races, all of them, and I decided to just let the thing ease off, slow it down, as people lost interest or whatever, we just put that truck away. All of a sudden, one day, my daughter said, I think I'm going to take over McCormack Motorsports and show you how it should be done. Yes, dear.
Say what?
Yeah. Well, not quite that way. But, see, there's only two people in this world I've been afraid of in my entire life, and their mother's already passed away. So as we speak, she currently is in Nashville, Tennessee, at a Good Guys street rod thing with a tractor trailer. She drove down there herself. She likes it. She loves it.
She drove it by herself?
She's a drag racer. She and her son and her brothers and all that. Her tow rig to go to drag racing is longer than the tractor trailer. Tractor trailer is 78 foot long. Her rig's 83, with the two race cars in the trailer and a big diesel pusher, or not a pusher. Hers is built on a truck chassis. It's a like 475 horse Caterpillar motor.
So she's in bracket racing.
No. Yeah, right. She's an NHRA stock eliminator, but you'll love this. Tignanelli says one day, he said,
Here we go.
I'm looking for an NHRA stock type car. It's got to be a Chrysler product. Said, I know a guy who was world champion 3 times. He's got a wonderful Challenger late model Hemi in it, very competitive, and his health is forcing him to slow down. He's going to retire to Salt Lake City where his family is. Tommy went and looked at it, give the guy a $500 deposit. 3 weeks later, the guy calls and says, hey, is that Tignanelli guy for real? I said, no, it's an actor. I said, why are you asking? He said, well, give me $500. I said, I heard that. But he never had me start the car. He said, oh, you live in a subdivision. Your neighbor, no, I don't need to hear it. I said, well, did he look at the chassis and the forelink and all that? He never looked at that either. I said, he just decided, yeah, he gave me a check. He said, Jack says it's a good car, it's $500. I said, okay, what's your question? Well, it's been 3 weeks, I haven't heard anything. Let me call him. Tommy says, oh, I don't know if I want it or not. I said, well, the man's sitting on a $500 check. Oh, tell him to cash it. That's his for holding it for me.
When was this?
2 years ago.
We got to get on this gravy train.
Anyhow, I said, Tommy, you should at least look at the car run, hear it run, watch it make a pass. Where is it going to run again? I said, well, Norwalk got rained out. They ran the pros, but the sportsman didn't.
Yeah.
So when we finished the U.S. Nationals Labor Day weekend, the next weekend we're going back to Ohio. Well, let's go there. I said, okay. So he and I go to watch, take him over, introduce him to the guy again, watch the car run. He said, that's a good car. I'm going to buy it. He doesn't own it to this day. But anyhow, he comes back to my daughter, and I've been telling him, you need to get a decent tow rig, because you take 2 cars a lot of places, that double stacker trailer. Yeah. You ought to get a motorhome. There's so many advantages. After a run of Jimmy's all hot and sweaty, you can take a shower, rinse off. If you get hungry, just go in and make yourself a sandwich, a hot dog, a burger, whatever. Cook a steak, it don't matter. But instead of paying these ridiculous concession stand prices and all that, Tom says, and I will not mock him or imitate him, but he says, how does a motorhome tow? Ask your daughter. My daughter's 4 foot from me this way, he's 3 that way. So Jennifer, Tom wants to know how the motorhome tows. Very well. How fast? Before I can say anything, she says, 95. He said, no, with the trailer. She said, yeah. He said, my old motorhome was a V10 Ford, and when we left home, we always had this big hill, and I had to mash it and just hold it to get it up to speed. So I'm doing that. My son looks over and said, Ma, there's cops in the area. Yeah. Points the speedometer. She said, we're going 95. She said, I didn't realize that motorhome would pull that trailer that fast.
Damn.
She said, and I was still thinking I'm getting up to 70, 75. They've changed speed limit on 69, I-69 to 75 now. She was aiming for 75 and doing 95. But Tom says, I should get one of them. That was last year. He still don't have the motorhome. But
I take it Tom likes the thing in the moment, and then tomorrow he'll forget about it.
well, you know that part about him locking in on stuff?
Yeah.
He has to, otherwise it's gone. It's a necessity with Tom.
It's funny. It's funny that you pulled only because everybody does the Tom voice, you know, to differentiate between Jim and Tom when they talk. You know, not because of Tom, because of how he got the voice, but it was just interesting.
Well, if you want to look at both of them, have Jim stand in front of him. If you just want to pay attention to one, stand behind him, then you just see Tom. That's how you tell the two apart.
Really?
Well, sure. Tom's this way, Jim's that way.
Heavyweight and lightweight?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, okay.
Then you get in, that's just physical. Then you get into conversation with them, and you can really get confused.
Because?
Oh, I'm just doing this because he started asked me about Florida. Tell him, thank you very much, I got a wonderful tan.
I mean, the whole thing and all these stories and all that stuff, there is so much, you know, that you have your fingers in or at one time that, you know, it's the common man would have had to be cloned.
I may have been. I'm in the process. I'll let you know how it comes out. No, it's true, but it's over a period of time, too. It's not like I learned it all in a 7-day period of time, you know. Yeah. I got out of high school and went to work for Ford Motor Company. I sold so many wheels and tires because I kept buying new cars and putting stuff on driving to work that I stopped at the wholesale place one day in '67, just before the riots burned them to the ground. And the owner says, I should hire you. I got outsell salesmen that are full-time on my payroll that don't sell as many wheels and tires as you do. And all you're doing is part-time at the plant where you're working. I said, yeah, I'll give it some thought. Well, then the riots came through, burned him to the ground. '68, the Tigers won the World Series, and I thought, it's the end of the world. If Tigers can win the World Series, it's got to stop. So I better find something I want to do the rest of my life. So I went and saw him and said, are you serious about having somebody run your wholesale wheel and tire thing? He said, damn straight. And that's how I got in the wheel and tire thing. And from that, I met people at Ford Engineering that would bring vehicles over to have wheels and tires fitted for it. I met Jack Roush, who did a lot of work, prototype cars for them. And once a month or so, I'd go to his place on my way home. I lived out in Canton at the time. And I would go through all the takeoffs that he had and make him an offer on it. And 90% of the time, he just to get him out of here, give me a credit on my account and that stuff like that. Stopped there one time on a Friday, did that. Yeah, that's fine. And I knew right then he wasn't paying the least bit of attention to me or what I was quoting him. He said, what are you doing right now? I said, trying to make a deal with you on them tires. He said, no, I mean after this. I said, nothing particular. Can you help me out? I said, sure, what do you need? Come with me. I said, whoa, where are we going? My house. So how about I follow you? I've learned a long time ago you don't come with nobody because you're not going to get home in 3 days. And just once people anyhow, I found him in his house, and he said, my wife said, if the kids don't get to swim in the pool this weekend, I'm moving out. So he and I, Jack Roush and I, cleaned the swimming pool for his kids on a Friday evening. You know, so he probably wouldn't even remember that now, but I thought it was hilarious. Well, those are things that just happen to you in the course of life. And just the more you go, the more you learn, the more you see. Like, I have people that show up at Al's I've never met before, and within one lunch, I'm having a ball talking to them, listening to what they've done, and talking about what we did and all that sort of thing. But, you know, Al had mentioned at one point earlier that oil was one of the people, different oil companies that deal with you. I dealt with Castrol. They approached me and said, how many trucks you got on the road? And I think it was like 15 at a time. And they said, well, we just got screwed, was the term they used, by a person that's supposed to be carrying our oil to the racers. We have a commitment of a certain number of racers. Oil will be available at every national event for them to pick up. And the guy's carrying an inadequate amount. We want to do a dedicated truck strictly for NHRA for the racing. And I thought, yeah, sure, big deal. Oil, no big deal. You just got to get some hazard material permits to run down the road. Did that. But the things, I got to know John Force very well from that, Bernie Federley from his crew. One time there's a lady in charge of the program. She was in California. She says, how long are you staying in town? I said, well, the bank was Monday night, all day Monday for sure. She says, can you do some run around with me Monday? I got a lot of work to do, and if you can drive while I do the laptop and all that.
Not another pool cleaning. Here we go.
No. We actually went to All American Race Cars and Dan Gurney's deal.
Yeah.
And went in there, and I thought I was in a hospital. The floors were white, the walls, the ceiling. All the employees were wearing white coveralls. It was amazing. I'd never been in a race car shop that was that clean.
Like Alberto's place?
Yeah, exactly.
I thought so.
Yeah.
Okay.
At least one person was silly enough to show up in a white shirt. But I'm not going to mention any names, of course. But anyhow,
Tom Tignanelli.
But what's the chance you would ever meet Dan Gurney? But if I had not agreed to do their oil program, I had not met Dan Gurney or Force or Federal.
And this was in what year?
Oh my! Probably in the mid '80s.
Okay,
yeah.
So that's when Dan Gurney was still quite the name.
Oh yeah,
you know?
I was very impressed. But you run across a lot of people in a lot of different places, and at the time you're just doing your job, you're just moving forward. Like Al saying, you broke a rear end, you put another rear in the truck, you keep going. You got obligations to meet,
Yeah.
you got races and all that. But you stop 20 years later and look back and say, holy shit, I really met Dan Gurney, or John Force, or Don Prudomme, or God knows how many people.
Well, that was even the thing that we were talking with Randy Lindemood and stuff. It was like, it was no big deal to wake up Saturday morning, Shirley Muldowney's in the backyard, or whoever else was, Connie Coletta was there, and it was just, these were just people, and us on our bikes would go, humana, 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 you know who these people are.
Oh, yeah. Well, she used to send her son John, down to pick up tires and wheels, or bring me her wheels and we'd mount new slicks for her at my Dearborn store. We also had a store in Gardena, California. But Shirley Muldowney, Biederman, Jack Ostrander, a lot of the people that were just getting going back in those days, the Ram Chargers were all customers of ours.
They were just getting started in those days?
I had a guy walk into my place one day and says, hey, my name's Sparky. I said, good for you. And he said, I want to work for you. I said, all right, we can always use some help. What are you good at? He said, well, I can mount slicks and stuff like that. I said, really? Yeah, he says, I've been doing them at American Tire, I think it was. And I said, well, what do you got to have? And he told me, and I said, oh, I can double that. Come on to work. And all of a sudden the phone starts ringing. It was, can't remember his name, one of the guys from Ram Chargers. Hey, did you steal our tire mounter from American Tire? I said, well, I wouldn't want to. Yeah, I guess I would want to use the term. Yeah, I told him why. Well, are you guys going to mount slicks over there? I said, I paid him a lot of money. If he don't, I'm in trouble. So all of a sudden, Sparky starts bringing customers in that we never had before. So every little notch, if you get along with people, they introduce you to more and more and more. And it all just comes like, and the stories, oh my God, things you can say on and off tape.
Well, you can say anything you want here, Jack. It's just us two.
Yeah, right. Well, I don't mean to belittle your readership, or whatever you refer to it, but I mean, it's like when I met Prudomme, I was introduced by another fuel racer to him at the time, and they were in bad terms, and rightfully so. Prudomme had ordered a brand new trailer from Chaparral. It wasn't done yet. Meantime, he'd run an ad in Dragster and sold the old one, somebody from Canada. So the grand plan was, come take the old truck and trailer, go directly to Gainesville, send another pickup truck to Texas and wait till the new trailer's done, then bring it over. Swap everything out of the old trailer, the new one, unhook it, give the old trailer to the Canadian, and have a nice trip north. Everything worked out good, except there was this guy that owned a plumbing company that ran a top fuel car, and he figured out his PVC pipe. that if you could just drop a piston in it and you did a little pocket at the other end where you drilled a hole, fairly good size, you put nitro, and another little hole where you put them in, and you lit it, and they fired like 2 or 3 pistons in the air in Gainesville. I mean, they went way, way up
Pistons.
there, except for the 4th one. They lit it, and the pipe said, "See ya."
Ooh!
Through the side and out the roof of Prudomme's brand new trailer. Brand new trailer. Take all the crap out, put it in the old one, hook it up, take it back to Texas. And the guy went home to Canada with no trailer. But other than that, it was a good weekend.
Oh, good day. Who the hell would fire pistons? I mean, they have to come down somewhere later.
I don't think I'm going to mention his name.
Yeah, that's okay. But still, I mean, my God, man, those things they would hurt.
Oh, but you know what? If you work long enough at a given job, people get used to you.
Yeah.
Like a waiter. How many times will you be talking to somebody, waiter, would you like a refill? Sure, go ahead. And you keep right on talking. You don't even think about it. Well, if you're the guy behind the sales counter on the NHRA Medway, whether it be the oil or the hoses and fittings or the Holly carburetor, it don't matter. People get comfortable with you. And you'll be amazed how much you hear the teams talking about, yeah, our owner's doing this, our owner's lost his mind too, and all the rest of this. And over the years, I almost felt invisible, and I loved it. God, you hear so many stories. Like, I'd heard something that happened to a trailer. I didn't know until the following day when some of the crews are up there talking about it and all that. But there are so many stories like that. Like, we were in another one in Gainesville, and somebody says, "What's that coughing and spitting?" And another guy says, "That's the generator running out of fuel." Young kids, "I'll get it." Grabs a 5-gallon pail and tries to pour it in a running generator.
Oh, good idea.
Cost 3 trailers and 2 race cars. Other than that, it was a good plan. It was free labor.
And not named Sparky.
Yeah, no, it wasn't Sparky. Yeah, Sparky ended up, he spent 10 years telling me, "I'm going to do what you do. I'm going to put trucks and trailers together. I'm going to go to street rod meets." I kept saying, "Sparky, you can't do that. You do it with drag racing." As I said before, they burn 3 pairs of slicks up a year on each and every car. Now, there's close to 1,000 cars in many of these races. It don't take long to figure out you can make a living doing it. A street rod guy spends 5 years building a car. Not Al, who can knock one out in 6 months. But I mean, the average street rodder builds his car 5 years, puts radials on it, 50,000 miles. He ain't going to get to 50,000. He ain't going to get to 25 before he gets rid of the car, builds something new, or he's going to lose interest in it and put a different set of wheels or something on it. But the point is, there's no replaceable parts. There's nothing expendable on a street rod that you can go and set up and sell every weekend at a different location and expect to cover your expenses. Sparky figured that out after he went bankrupt the second time.
Ooh.
In the meantime, he'd opened a tire store in Allen Park and took it down with him too. But Sparky was one of the people you just had to love. I'd fire him. He'd get me so mad. He had a younger brother. They both worked for me, and they fought like brothers. And I'd finally have to go out and say, "You go up the retail side, and you work on the wholesale side. Don't talk to each other till you get home tonight," you know. And it worked for a while, and then finally I'd fire him. 3 weeks later, on a Monday, I'd see him working in the warehouse, and I'd go up to my office, and about noon he'd come up and he'd say, "Can I have my job back?" I said, "You've been out there 4 hours already." "Well, I wanted to make sure you weren't still mad." But Sparky was just Sparky. I mean, he had a boat, and he had his blue deck shoes.
Yeah.
And he wasn't smart enough to figure out when he came in with the blue shoes on. We knew he was going to disappear in that boat that afternoon. "Oh, I got to run down to Monroe to see Monroe Tire. I'll be back in the morning." Yeah, but he did.
To the water.
He took the boat down to Monroe. But all he did was pick up the tire store owner, and the two of them went fishing the rest of the day. I didn't get anything out of it. But if he wore the blue shoes, at least I knew it was coming. But there's certain tells with various employees.
I mean, what is it with you and brothers?
I don't know. It just seemed like if I like one guy, he said, "My brother needs a job. What the hell? Give him a try too."
Wow. You know, you were talking about Dan.
You know how I met Al Birchler?
This should be fun. I wind up the pitch.
Actually, it's not. No, actually, it's not. It was through my brother. My brother and he were in the National Guard together. and they were involved in the riot in '67. Al was coming back. He said, "Ain't no fun down there." And my brother was going down there. He said, "Well, I can at least play cards." But seriously, Al and my brother were in the National Guard together.
Wow. All right, so that's Al. You met the Tignanellis.
Well, it's because I moved to Roseville, and I bought gas at Shadowoods. And Tom recognized me and came talk to me at the drag strip.
He
So
recognized you.
Well, from buying gas at the gas station. Pretty hard to miss. I drove Ford vans that had this huge Wheel City sign on the side of the goddamn thing. And I also used it to tow the race car on the weekends. He came over and talked to me, Motor City Dragway.
All right.
And so I met Tom.
And now all these, because really it is a genius move. Because look at how many people would do like a Bell Tire kind of thing or a discount tire, to everybody, who needs a radial for their minivan. But drag racer guys are hard on their tires.
Oh, yeah.
And that you identified that long time ago. Genius move.
Well, the other thing we did is we were the largest distributor of Goodyear performance tires. And performance didn't mean racing. Racing was racing. Performance was anything with a white letter on the side or a red stripe. And we were the largest distributor of Goodyear's performance tires this side of the Mississippi. Same with Goodrich. BF Goodrich, when they came out with the white letter T8 series.
Yeah, right.
We jumped right on that. And we weren't the biggest in the country. The biggest was Super Shops. Harry Eberling was the name of the guy. He owned it. He owned Mallory Ignition.
Wow.
He and Joe Rudker from Mr. Gasket did a lot of work back and forth between themselves. And he sold a lot of Mr. Gasket stuff. And Joe, I heard, put him in contact at the point that the Mallory was for sale, and Joe had Excel going at the time and didn't need both companies. But here he sold tires. I mean, there was a meeting at the end of the year where they give the grand prize away, and they're giving him a Rolls four-door sedan. And he says to the guys in charge of the promotion, he said, think I'd like a Cornish convertible next year. And the guy said, oh, it doesn't work that way. You've got to get your sales up, and you got to win and all that. And the owner of the company comes walking up and said, order him anything he wants, find out what color. That's how strong Eberling was.
Hamana? Wow.
But here's another neat story that I'm pretty sure it's true. But they tried to do it. I know they tried to do a SEMA show on the East Coast, and it failed miserably. But there's a guy over there that had a speed shop up northern New York or something like that, and he's got his wallet out and he's showing somebody. He says, "Here's my '57 Thunderbird, and here's my '62 Corvette." And Harry's walking by. One of the guys in the group said, "Harry, come here a minute." He said, "You got the pictures of your cars?" "Oh, yeah. He says, there's my Lamborghini in front of my Italian Villa. There's my Rolls Royce in front of my English country house. There's some Italian thing right over when I was visiting the Pope. And he's got a house to go with every car. But I mean, here's my Beverly Hills mansion, and there's my Corvette in front of it, and there's my Woody wagon in front of my Malibu house. And not only does he have the cars, he's got a house to go with each car."
Yeah.
It's time you fold your wallet, put it in your pocket, and shut your
say
mouth.
thank you, yeah.
You done lost that one by a country mile. Yep.
I mean, did Firestone, did all the reps come to you and say, look, you got a great track record, Jack. Would you like to keep our line? I mean, did somebody want to, like Goodyear, say, look, don't sell those other guys?
Well, I did have Goodyear at one point try and put pressure on me because I did Goodyear, Firestone, back when it was Firestone, Mickey Thompson, and M&H. And they really weren't that upset about the others, but they really wanted me to drop M&H. Marvin, Harry Rifkin. I think it was a sore point that two brothers at a little hick town in Massachusetts, Watertown, Massachusetts, I think it was, could put together a tire compound, and it worked as well as it did.
Yeah.
So that bothered I'm sure the people up in the big offices were talking to the people in the race division saying, do something about this. So rather than make a better tire, that would be smarter just try and get rid of, the people selling, but it didn't work. But see, one of the compound engineers at Goodyear was named McManus, and his son, Lee McManus, started Mickey Thompson tires. And they were doing pretty good with slicks. And then he added the off-road. And when he saw how good Dick CPAC and some of them on the western country, part of the country, there's huge sales in off-road, big four-wheel.
Yes.
Now you see them everywhere, but back then it started on the West Coast, as does most everything, automotive-related trends.
Well, Dick CPAC was, I mean, for off-road, that was just like the gimme.
Oh, yeah.
For so long. And M&H Race Masters, I mean, the slicks, you saw them everywhere. And especially the cool thing is with front-engine dragsters, all the pictures you could see when the tires were like in pre-stage, there's that M&H logo.
Yep.
I mean, you got better advertising.
Originally, the Mickey Thompson had Mickey Thompson, like 1/3 of the tire. It eventually got to look at M&H, and they changed the M/T.
T.
That's where the Mickey Thompson logo came from, allegedly. I was told that by one of the girls at Mickey Thompson one time.
When you were invisible and people were talking about it?
No, when I was visiting them in Chagrin Falls, Ohio, where they used to be. They've moved now, but I was down there just getting ready for the season, seeing if they had any new banners or any new tire sizes I need to know about, because I was putting a truck and trailer together. Then they came to me and said, "Why do you need so many brands of tires?" I said, "Because I got that many customers." "What would happen if you took one full truck, just Mickey Thompson only?" So we can find out, and I can tell you how much it'll cost you to find out. And I met with Lee McManus, the president. He said, "Let's do it." He said, "I like your attitude." I'm thinking, you will now.
Did you open up your wallet and show you, that's my car?
No. Lee was a good guy, and I'm happy to see that he did as well as he did. He sold Mickey Thompson to tire company that just got bought last year by Goodyear. So Goodyear now owns Mickey Thompson drag tires. Cooper. He sold Mickey Thompson to Cooper.
Cooper bought Mickey Thompson?
Cooper bought Mickey Thompson, and by then Mickey owned CPAC. So they got CPAC too. And there's another big off-brand name I can't think of right now. But then a year and a half later, Goodyear bought Cooper.
I was going to say, 'cause I wouldn't have thought on the consumer end that Cooper had any kind of, it was a big player. Or evidently they saved their pennies.
Oh, yeah. Now, the other thing is Firestone. When Firestone got sold?
To Bridgestone?
No,
that's right.
The race division.
Oh, okay.
You're right. Firestone is owned by Bridgestone. But when they decided they were going to sell the Firestone, Corky Coker wanted to buy it because he had all kinds of replacement wide whites and old tractor tires, and like the tires on the skinnies like this and big wide ones. He wanted that, and they said, "Well, we'll sell it to you on one condition: within 3 years, you ease out the name Firestone." So it's now known as Phoenix. Phoenix tires is the old Firestone drag tires.
Really?
Yep. They kept the Firestone name on the Indy 500 cars, but the rest of the race tires went to Coker, and it became Phoenix.
Why would they change?
Because Firestone didn't want somebody else using their name.
Makes sense. Yes.
And when you got the kind of money they got, speaking of which, Firestone family built a gorgeous mansion in Arizona. 2-story everything, not even counting the house. Just there's a swimming pool here and a soccer court underneath it, and a badminton court here and basketball underneath that and all that. And it's all built down on the ground. 30 employees and 4 greenhouses. Once a month they go tear up things, throw it in the back of a dump truck, get rid of it, put new plants in. Because it's a desert, you can't grow shit there. But Firestone was stubborn. We're gonna have green plants, so they did it. Whatever happened in the family, they decided to move on. They sold it to Rudka, Joe Rudka, that owned Mr. Gasket. Rudka plans it so we're in Phoenix for the drag race. We all come over for a big introduction party to his new mansion. Larry Morgan's wife buys him a gorgeous sports coat, but it's cream colored, and it's like cashmere and all that.
Here it comes.
We're going down the stairs to look at the lower basement. Guy behind him stumbles and a whole glass of wine all the way over. Joe says, "Don't worry about it." And his wife says, "I'll take it. I'll get it." She said, No. just buy him another one, send me a receipt. And Joe bought, and it wasn't Joe's fault anybody stumbled, but he bought Morgan a new coat. But it was horrendous to look at that cream-colored coat with all that purple shit all over it, especially for a non-drinker. That's if you're a drinker, it's one thing. I had to quit drinking when I was 21. I do everything backwards. Quit drinking and smoking at 21. I did. I got into a bet, and the guy says, "What are you giving up for Atlanta?" So I'm gonna give up smoking. Yeah, I'll bet you 50 you can't do it. Go ahead. All of a sudden there's 8 or 9 guys going, I'll bet you. I started adding up. One of them goes, "Hey, you want to go for not drinking too?" Yeah. I had no choice. I couldn't afford to lose that bet. So I quit drinking and smoking.
So how much did you clear?
I don't remember. I know I paid my car off. I don't remember what it was. 61 something or other. Oh, it was a 390, 375 horse. Street race car.
But now, if you went back to saying that out of 4 cars, 3 were ahead of you, I mean, did that...
That means that's how lousy I was at even starting line. On a good day. On a good day. Sometimes it'd be 4 ahead of me. There's only 4 of us total. I'm going, how'd I do that? Must have been the next row, I don't know. But seriously, I am not a good driver. I mean, I'm a good daily driver. I mean, I get where I got to be, and I ain't killed that many people. So
not discounting.
Not recently. But as far as a drag race driver, no, I didn't.
Even street racing? None of that appealed to you?
Oh, I better have been okay at that.
Here comes the story.
No. Street racing's not illegal.
No, but say it's somebody that looked like you. Say you had a brother.
How about I had a wife?
How about you?
How about that one Saturday morning, a friend of mine calls me in the morning, about 6:30 in the morning, I'll pay. When do you hear this? When do you hear this? I said, wait till my head opens up. Slow down. He said, Troy Ruttman has got a brand new 64 Galaxy NASCAR car, but it ain't a NASCAR car yet. So now I'm already confused, but keep going. Don't worry about it. I'll catch up. He said he's getting divorced. He's meeting with his lawyer 9 o'clock Monday morning, her lawyer rather. He's got to get this car sold and out of his name by then, or she's going to get half of it. So, and it's a 64 Galaxy. This is 64, of course. The bubble hood scoop and the dual quad 4x7, the automatic and all that. So I run around, I'm writing checks that ain't worth a shit. Went to a friend of mine, his father I knew he had a shop similar to this, but he had bunches of cans like up there. But if you knew which can to take down, said nails, nah.
It says ATM?
Takes a roll of cash, 100, and he loans me money. I go, a friend of mine that's a manager at the Shaper regular movie theater, and I write him a check that ain't no good. So hold this as late money as you can. But I got everybody paid back, and I bought the car, and my wife says, why don't we use it? Okay, we'll use it. So I put a plate on it. She drove it to work one day, and the next morning, and she worked downtown in the city of Detroit, Texas, city county building. Some big shot from upstairs comes down, talks to her boss, says, you got somebody down here driving a white car with a big lump on the front, and it's real loud. She says, it's her. So I come over and talk to my wife, and he says, he says, this is my car. Next time you want to come down here, he said, call me the night before, and he says, I'll park outside. You can park my supervisor's indoor parking space. So she does this 2 or 3 times, and he comes by, and he said, you got the car today, I see. Well, he knew because he'd parked outside. Yeah. And he says, will it spin the tires like the kids do? Oh, what a genius question. So this is a long, narrow building, of course, where they pull all the cars at an angle. And the only downside to this is those things had a hood scoop and they had wire mesh on the back. Yeah. They washed executive cars for free.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we filled up with a bunch of soap suds in the back of mine, but it worked out. She got it started. Just give her trouble. She backs it all the way down the building, and she's waiting because she got off at 4:15. He didn't get off till 4:30. Sees him go walk around the corner at the far end, lights it, and goes end to end of the building. Both tires all the way. Stops there. She says, is that enough? And he said, yeah. And everybody's building going, we're going to get you fired, bitch. And the guy's going, no, you ain't. But we used to drive down to Toledo like Friday nights because you could drink at 18 in Ohio and you had to be 21 in Michigan.
What year was this?
I don't remember exactly.
Early 60s?
Well, this was in 64 with a car, but we started doing it way before then.
Okay.
But anyhow, when we were in our teens. But we still had the habit of going to Toledo with our friends and hang out and bullshit and all that. And she raced about 3 or 4 or 5 people on the way down, on the way back, and she just loved it because by then everybody was buying that stupid hood or the bubble itself, put it on the car with a 350 2-barrel or a 289 4. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
She had the real thing. It was, but it had that Cruise-O-Matic cast iron automatic trans. Terrible. It was great for spinning the tires.
Yeah, but not for winning. I mean, when you married her or when you were dating, did you know that she was a hot rod?
Oh, she wasn't.
Oh, she was until this car?
I infected her in more than one way. But, yeah, she had a half of a 58 Thunderbird.
Okay.
Her father, the genius, was divorced from her mother. He and the stepfather were busy seeing who could outspend each other to get. She had an older sister at the time, So the older sister says to the mother, "I'm going to use it Friday and Saturday and Sunday for 3 days, and she can have it Monday through Thursday." What a bargain, huh?
Yeah.
Anyhow, as usual, my wife lost the argument. So
as usual.
Oh yeah, her mother was prejudiced to the oldest daughter. That's all right. We knew it, Anyhow, before we got married, 1963, she calls me and says, "Time to get off work." I said, "Anytime I want to." She says, "Can you meet me at Bob Ford? Jack Grace selling me a new car today. I ordered and came in." I said, "Okay." So this is on Michigan Avenue in Dearborn. I'm on Schaefer. It's 5 minutes drive. I'm sitting over there. It's getting darker and darker outside. So what are we waiting for? Well, she was only 20 at the time. Her dad had to co-sign the loan. And that's fine. I understood that. But we're still sitting there like an hour and a half after she owns the car. They go out, put the plate on it and everything for her. What do we... Wait till Dad goes. Eventually he goes use the restroom. She says, "I don't know how to drive a 4-speed. I said, "What's that got to do with anything?" "It's a 4-speed. "Why in the hell did you buy a car you can't drive?" "So my sister can't drive it." Oh, that makes perfect sense.
Oh, brilliant.
I totally understand it now. So I spent 4 hours that night at what she called Monkey Ward, Montgomery Ward's parking lot, teaching her to drive a stick, because she didn't drive to work the next morning. Her daddy would have wanted to know what the hell, or her stepdad, both of them would have wanted to know what the hell's going on. You buy a car you don't drive. So we had a crash course in 4-speeds that night.
But the emphasis on crash?
No. The emphasis was on Ford Motor, thank you for all them clutches. She couldn't drive with this shit. But we used it to tow my race car. It was a beautiful car. I mean, they called it Ming, M-I-N-G. It was a green with some metallic in it, but it had a white interior, bucket seats, and all the rest of that. It was a 390/330. That was the one with the bigger cam in it and all that.
Yeah.
Yep. She loved that car.
But a 4-speed.
She started driving the 4-speed 390 convertible, and that's when she got into hot rodding. And we were at a race one day, and I had a fellow named Doolittle that I sponsored, had a Ford Maverick. No, he didn't. He had a Mercury Comet, same thing, same sheet metal, with an inline 6 automatic, and he ran U-stock automatic, and he won a lot of trophies and stuff like that with it. And she says, "I could drive a car like that." I'm going, I didn't hear that. I could drive a car like that. All right, calm down.
How did you try to play it off? Were you wild about this idea?
No, I wasn't wild about her even going to races. Stay home where you belong.
Give me them shoes?
Yeah. Anyhow, we ended up, I'd bought her 2 years prior. That was 74, I guess. Yeah. In 72, I bought her a brand new Comet GT, black with black stripes, black bucket seats, power moonroof, the whole deal, 302 2-barrel. I sold it to Dave Lyle, the Pro Stock driver. Dave Lyle got in a little bit of trouble with it. So when she said she wanted a car
302 2-barrel, got in trouble with it?
Oh, not from the performance.
Oh, okay.
He gave it to his girlfriend, and her husband took offense. What do how are you supposed to know that's going to happen? And he found out the hard way because he owned a Sunoco gas station at the time. It was between working for Roush and working for Ford and all that. He had a gas station on Middle Belt, and he gave it to her. And then his buddy came by that raced in mine all the time, wanted to borrow the record. He had a deal on a wrecked car they wanted the motor and trans out of. And you need to get it home so I could strip it. Well, this guy apparently had some underworld connection, shall we say. They pulled the wrecker over on Michigan Avenue and broke both his legs with baseball bats. And he kept saying, I'm not Dave Lyle. I'm not, quit lying. You got his truck. And after that, they put the Comet behind the gas station next to the dumpster and covered it with a tarp. Well, I went and bought that car back, and that's what we built. Her first race car was a six-cylinder Comet.
Holy.
With a history.
I mean, did that kind of concern you when the more and more that you want to get into drag racing, the more and more you go, hon, you know, is this a good idea?
No, it didn't bother me. I mean, I totally controlled what she was going to run. I mean, I actually went out and bought, there's a place up in Breckenridge, Michigan, called Tri-City Competition, and he had built a U-stock automatic 67 Plymouth wagon.
U-stock.
273 two-barrel station wagon. I bought it as a training car. I trained her. Well, I didn't. I wasn't crazy enough trying to teach her how to drive. I had her trained in it, all three of my kids, one of my grandkids, and 4 or 5 other guys. I'd loan it out. I mean, it would run fast enough to set the record. Whenever we wanted to, we set the record. Just if the driver needed a few more points to get up higher in the division, I'd load them in the car, let them run it, tap the record.
Wait a minute. You taught them?
No, I let them use my wagon.
Okay. I was going to say.
It was a training car.
Yeah, as a trainer. Okay, because I'm thinking if you're training them.
You don't want me to teach you how to wash a car. Somehow I'd screw it up. What's that funny? Oh, that's a sponge.
Did you watch the tree come down, and when you saw green, you kind of went, oh, okay, well, wait.
Wake up. Goddamn battery watching it. Come on, Mickey, turn it over. Thank you. There we go.
Oh, now? I mean,
it wasn't quite that bad, but it was bad enough for many years. I told people, it's bad enough I know how lousy a driver I am. You don't need to know.
When you taught her how to drive a 4-speed, that's not a fun thing to do because, especially newbies, and your neck is all the way in the back, and before they didn't have those neck restraints.
I didn't have a dime in it, and Ford was supplying the clutch. I didn't care. It was under warranty. Sure. It's like there's a team that used to do the Midway at NHRA, Tim and Beth Hyatt.
Okay.
They buy their first 18-wheeler, and he said, we'll buy you dinner if you tell us, some things we need to know about being on the Midway and all that. Sure. So we happen to be at Indianapolis. We went to Brownstown to a steakhouse over there, and we're talking all that. And I'm telling them, you got to be able to take credit cards. You got to remember to bring cash to make change. Make sure you're well insured. If somebody stubs a chuck hole in front of your deal and breaks an ankle, she's just going to remember that tomorrow she's going to start ballerina class, and she's going to be a world-class ballerina. Yeah. You're going to get sued. And all the rest of this, like, okay. So they buy the truck, and she has a Ford Fiesta, a little 4-cylinder, 4-speed thing. She says, I don't think I'll ever learn how to drive this. Tim says, no problem. He's going to teach his own wife how to drive. Mm-hmm. She says, what do I do? He says, just like drive your Fiesta, you just got to shift more times. Oh, okay. Puts the clutch in. Let the clutch out. It's like riding in a basketball. Boom, boom, boom. Well, maybe it's not exactly like your Fiesta. Let's try this again. It's just like when I used to do displays for Motorcraft, division of Ford, and I had a Thunderbird painted red and white, said Motorcraft, and on one door it said #1 Bob Glidden, and you turn it around, the other side said #1 Ricky Smith. And if you go to an iRADIO race, you put the side out that says Ricky Smith. You go to an NHRA race, you put Bob Glidden out. You go to anybody else, you still put Glidden out. But anyhow, they got an 18-wheeler, and they get to Florida, and Etta always seemed to end up somewhere where she couldn't get to the restroom quick. And I had put a restroom in my trailer for ladies that said employees only, but it was well known. It wasn't necessarily just, it was the wives and my customers' wives, racers' wives, whatever. Anyhow, I got to know Etta fairly well, and she said, Bob got a new truck, and he's teaching me to drive. She's got a 13-speed transmission. I missed every one of them at least 3 times coming down here. And Bob's just shaking his head like, what am I going to tell Ford Motor when she tears this truck out? But she said, I missed every gear at least 3 times on the way down here. Wow.
I mean, you're sitting in Montgomery Ward's parking lot, and you got this brand new car, and you know, especially if you know how to drive a 4-speed, that this is not going to be a fun experience for your neck, you know. And
it really wasn't that bad. I mean,
she could actually do it.
Well, she'd been a cheerleader. She had physical
Cheerleader 4-speed.
Well, coordination.
Ah,
you learn to, you learn to follow what everybody else is doing, all that. And if you show her how to do it a couple times, she did it remarkably well. She drove all the way to work the next. She did better than her stepfather. He'd take her to the beer store 5 blocks away. First gear, it's the only gear ever used. Park in front of the house. If I need it, I'll take it. Get the beer. Park in front of the house. No second, no reverse. First gear. He contributed to the Ford's clutch problem. True story. Her stepfather did not know how to drive a stick shift. Never took it on any gear other than first.
And he went over 15 miles per hour?
I have no clue. I didn't watch. I didn't want to know. It was her car. I mean, whatever happens, happens. It's not my problem.
It's almost, but then somehow, some way, after that, how long before you guys got married? Or
following year, we drove it in the wedding. We drove it from the church to the reception.
And that's...
Well, the kid on the wall did. My brother drove. She and I were in the back seat. With the top, because of course it was raining. That should have been a clue right then and then. I should have turned around, but I wasn't smart enough, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, how did the proposal go? Hey, you can drive a 4-speed, why get hitched?
Oh, no. Yeah, I'll tell you exactly how it went. We're coming down Fakel Avenue. I lived on a side street. Here's the church. The side street is Monte Vista.
Yeah.
I downshift the second, roll the corner, give it a little gas, poke her in the third on Monte Vista. She says, you know, they've drafted you 3 times now. I said, yeah, I know. You know, if we were married, they wouldn't draft you. I said, okay.
That was it?
That was it.
You romantic man, you.
I didn't make a proposal. She did. You know, she didn't give me no ring or nothing. God damn it. Cheap bitch. But I got home and she drove away. And next night she come by and says, we got to go talk to my stepdad and my mother. And she said, you got to promise me something.
This should be good.
Didn't I already promise to marry you? What more do you want?
To wind up the pitch.
Promise me you won't hit my stepdad. Oh, no, I'm saving that one. I ain't giving it up that easy. What are you talking about? He's going to ask if I'm pregnant. And he
what?
did. And she looked at me and said, all right, I promised. Oh, yeah, real genius.
Yeah, evidently so.
What are you going to do?
They drafted you 3 times. How did you miss?
Well, the first time I was sole support of my mother. Second time I was in college. And the third time I just got married. I had a family to take care of, or a wife. I ended up joining the Army Reserve. They ain't going to give up. My brother already joined the National Guard, so I figured, I'll do the Army Reserve, then we can compare notes, and if we have children, we'll tell them which is the better, you know.
So how long were you in the reserves?
6 years.
6 years. Based out of where?
Pontiac, Michigan.
Really?
Quonset hut, one of the big round corrugated buildings.
Yeah, right.
Totally round. It had been a Buick dealer's body shop, and they quit doing it, and the federal government rented it, and we did our... Matter of fact, I was there in '67. We had no knowledge because we'd been in Camp McCoy, Wisconsin. We come back in a convoy, and I'm the very last vehicle giving everybody a big head start. But we had no, civilian radio. They just had the Army radio to talk to each other. Come on, pick up the pace, close up the gap.
Yeah.
We get there and there's like 3 bullet holes in the building in here, and there's 2 more going. Damn, we're getting ventilation. Look at that. You know?
That's unusual.
Oh, yeah. So we found out somebody come running in and said, there's a riot in Detroit and it's already spreading to Pontiac, and what are we going to do and all that?
Spreading to Pontiac?
Yeah, they thought it was going to go all the way out there. To my knowledge, it didn't.
No.
But they had enough fun in Detroit to cover it. They entertained themselves. But just for fun, I was towing a 16-inch howitzer. We dropped it and set it up like it would fire, pointing right across the street from where the bullets are coming from. And the bullets stopped. We didn't have ammunition. We just had the gun. They kept the ammunition in Wisconsin, but the people in that house didn't know that. they quit shooting immediately. I mean, you see an opening about this big pointed at you, think, maybe we ought to quit this bullshit. You know?
Yeah, and it's a big boom.
Yeah.
I mean, so did you call back to the wife and go, hey, it's crazy what's happening?
No, I got home before I said it. She said, you hear what happened in Detroit? I said, no.
Do tell.
What's going on down there? Yeah.
You know, the wild thing is that after you got all this stuff, Wheel City shows up. Now, there's a Wheel City now, but that has nothing to do with you, right? I mean...
No, there ain't a Wheel City now.
There isn't?
No. There's a McCormack Racing now.
Yeah, right.
And there's McCormack Motorsports. Wheel City is gone.
Okay.
My partner got a new source of information, and it cost him a lot, but he trusted it well. Came in little tubes like this, and it was white powder.
Oops.
I had him buy me out, and within 2 years of buying me out, well, his first clue he had a real problem is, as I mentioned, we had the other store in Gardena, California.
Yeah.
When his accountant blew his brains out in his garage at home, there was pretty good silence.
That's an indicator.
That was an indicator we might have a little problem on the horizon. Oh boy, did we!
Yeah, and then
But I was gone by then.
But look at how many businesses you've had. I mean, all the different corporations and everything that has your names on it and stuff like that.
I've got a book in the car, and everybody has their own idiosyncrasies. I have more than normality. But anyhow, my collection is business cards. I love collecting business cards. I got hooked on one when a guy came in the store one day and showed me his card. But anyhow, I just looked through it this morning for something or other, and it had the two addresses, California and Michigan. But we had both places going strong. Anyhow, the business card that hooked me, I can't even remember. That's how bad it is. I don't remember what the guy's product was, but you flipped it over, and there's a tent. And there was a king with a crown and all kinds of soldiers around him with bows and arrows and spears. And there's just rows and rows and rows on the left side of the tent of soldiers with shields and ready to go. And on the right side, there's a little trailer with a Gatling gun. And the king's saying, I got no time for a salesman. I still have that business card. I love it. I mean... Wow, does that get your attention? You got to stop and talk to the guy. Well, you selling Gatling guns? What? I'll take two. No. Waxes and polishes, get out of here. But it's a hell of a catch. I mean, you got to give the guy credit. Somebody comes up with a gimmick like that, got no time for a salesman.
But I mean, we're looking at all this stuff. I mean, really, all the automotive racing that you've been involved in, on the other side. Holy,
Scratch the surface. I was at a race one day, Georgia, and the head of the contingency program come by and said, Jack, we're in trouble. That means NHRA's in trouble. I said, who told you? What do you mean? I said, you guys ain't smart enough to figure out on your own. Who told you you're in trouble? No, seriously. The end of the previous year at Pomona, California, Strange Engineering had shipped 2 complete Pro Stock rear ends, disc brake to disc brake. There, and somebody had signed for it, and nobody could find it, and Strange wants to be paid by the racer. Racer said, I never got it. And they're going to NHRA was signed Jesse James. And it wasn't the guy that built motorcycles neither. Somebody stole $4,800 worth of rear ends with a simple signature.
Jesse James?
Yeah.
Nobody checked?
That seemed like, nope, not at the time. The trucking company didn't care. They delivered it. They got his signature. They were gone. NHRA never knew they showed up, so they didn't know to look for them. They didn't know they were missing. Anyhow, they said, use your brain power. I said, we're in trouble. And come up with a way that we can do the freight a little different. I said, use your brain power and tell me how you can make it effective that I can make money on it without you guys grabbing the biggest chunk. Us? Don't give me that look. Yeah, you.
Me?
Anyhow, what I did is I calculated most freight shows up on Thursday. If I get there Wednesday and load my golf cart, I own the golf cart rental, brought 160 carts to every national event. Not a half, maybe a third were already rented to pro teams because they were running a room on trailer, and NHRA wouldn't allow anything bigger than a 53-foot trailer. So one of the big items they could get rid of and easily go get, they'd bring it to me, they get it back, it'd be washed, clean. Twice a year I tune it up, At every race I filled it. So when they got it on a Thursday morning, they had enough gas to get them through the weekend, bring it back, and next Thursday they get it again, ready to go. I said, if by Thursday afternoon we can defer most of the stuff coming in till then, I'll unload all the golf carts, or I can move it up to Wednesday, and Thursday morning, every piece of freight comes, we'll just sort it along the walls in the golf cart tray, the one that carries the carts. And then they said, well, there are guys that ship complete motors and rear ends and everything, going to need a forklift. And we'll rent one and get it to you at every racetrack. After the third race, I said, called home and said, buy a new forklift for the warehouse and pull the oldest one out, put it on my trailer. I'm going to put it on a trailer when I get back. But I did the golf carts, I did the freight for NHRA. I owned Trick Trucks and I owned Trick Trailers to begin with. One of my sons wanted to sell trailers.
You owned it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And the advantage, you know what happens with a trailer? It's a new vehicle. You got to have a dealer license. You get a dealer plate. You also can buy fleet insurance. It just covers everything. I never should have, if it didn't lose so much money and I didn't want to kill my son, I'd have kept it. But my wife said I couldn't kill him, so the next best thing was get rid of the company. But I love that trailer. It was perfect. And then the Trick Trucks, that was back in the 70s, I think it was, when all the lowering and the custom vans and all that. And Bobby Riefeld owned Western Chassis in California, and he was a Top Fuel nut. He loved to go watch Top Fuel. Couldn't afford to do it. Was too lazy to work on any of the cars. But he and Pugsy wanted to come to the races and watch Top Fuel. So the concept was I would sell lowering components and all the rest of it, and plastic flares, whatever crap you could put on a pickup truck or a van back there. And we did so well at the race, I said, we might as well pick up some of the action in Michigan. So we started Trick Trucks, and spelled Trucks, Trux. And then later on, when we got into the trailers, we just used the same company and ran all the sales through it, but we had to add a dealer license. So we had Trick Trucks and Trailers, 3 T's, you know.
Yeah.
We had it down in Autorama for a number of years and all that. And we did fairly well with it. We had a lot of fun, but I really did like that dealer plate with anything I wanted to drive, like, and away you go. You know, it was perfect.
The reason why you wanted to kill your son with all that would be?
He gave 5 trailers away for free.
Okay, enough.
No, that's not fair. Let's be fair. He gave 4 away. I put one up to whoever got the highest number of points and had one of our decals on the car. And that was a guy named John Lovins in Dayton, Ohio. I gave that one to Lovins. The other 4, because I did it, he thought he could do it. He gave away, 4 more trailers. So, needless to say, that company didn't make any money 2-3 years, so I dug it back out of the hole.
How did the dinner table happen that day? Gee, Dad, you know what I did today?
Oh, he was married and had kids. He had his first kid when he was 15. He's been married 7 times. He's got 5 kids.
Wow.
Mental giant.
Very active fellow.
Oh, yes, very active. Yeah.
But I mean, you take a look at all the stuff, and you were involved in Can-Am on the other side. I mean, with knowing that Dan Gurney, they were showing the Sam Posey.
All I did was supply oil.
Yeah, but even then, so.
Okay.
You were there during that time, and Can-Am they thought that was going to be the next big thing. I mean, and it did fairly well. Yeah. But
it didn't do what people had thought it would.
No. I mean, what did you think of Can-Am?
I didn't think that much of it at the time. I wasn't interested in that kind of racing. I mean, I could go to any race I want for free, but it was boring to watch them go round and round. I figured I could do the same thing with some crushed toilet paper and flush it. At least with the toilet, it'd eventually get out of my sight. Those guys were just there and there and there. Couldn't you crash once in a while or something? NASCAR is based on crashes, It's a bunch of old moonshine runners running around crashing each other. Yeah. People come to watch you crash. Come on. Whose turn is it to crash? God damn it, But Can-Am was like, and they were also, they were a champagne crowd. They considered themselves champagne crowd, and all the rest of racing was a beer crowd. Screw them, it's beer and cheese. We're a little better than that.
Pig cottage cheese?
Yeah, right.
Velveeta?
Yeah, Velveeta. But I don't know. It's just like I do not have the same feelings today about drag racing as I did then about Can-Am, but then I didn't care. Now I do. And I don't know. For a while, drag races seemed to be dying, but then you got these street outlaws and no prep kings and all the rest of it, and they're bringing an interest to racing, but it's a phony image on TV. Most of it can't possibly be true. Like, let's face it, they got these unlimited race cars, and the chief runs the whole thing, and the chief runs a Pontiac, and he outruns every Chevrolet and Hemi out there. Give me a break. The Pontiac ain't had that day yet, and it ain't coming. Pontiac is not that good. Butler does a great job with Pontiac motors, but as far as all-out competition, they're never gonna win. But the point is, at first I thought it was nice that these new things were all coming on TV and on the cable channels. Now I wonder if it's not pulling away from the NHRA. iRADIO is almost non-existent. NHRA used to be a serious competitor of NHRA. Now it's down to just bracket racing and stuff.
Yeah, then you got WDRA that splintered off of IHRA.
Oh, yeah.
And it's amazing to us that there's an actual oomph enough to split. But I mean, if you had your druthers, Jack, how would you get NHRA drag racing back?
I think you'd have to go so far back. See, there's so many things that have been done wrong or have been corrupted from the very beginning. A good example is the beginning of this year, there was a rumor that they hired some new people in the tech department, which has been drastically needed.
And which where?
NHRA. As far as I'm concerned, NHRA is drag racing. I mean, in this country, until somebody else comes and creates a serious threat, since IHRA has been toned down so badly, NHRA is drag racing. That's just my opinion, my thoughts. But that's where all the big money is. That's where all the big cars are. That's where all the big shows are. And face it, why would you go to a little show when you can go to a big show? People want to be entertained. They don't want to see 6 or 8 cars. They want to see 100 or so. In time you get your top fuel drag sharing, your top fuel funny car, and then your 2 alcohols, and this Tony Stewart driving an alcohol car and winning a national event already. That's been a real plus. I don't think a lot of people fully understand how much that does for the sport, having Tony Stewart there. He's going to bring a lot of fans with him, or at least a lot of interest. Like, what are these people doing here? What's Tony doing over there? That sort of thing.
You think he's going to bring the NASCAR crowd over?
Well, not the entire crowd, of course. But
his fans,
I think
obviously.
Well, his fans, yeah.
Because, go ahead.
No, and I think he's good for it. But the rest of it, it's like my area, which is a very small area compared to what Al and the Tignanellis run and all that. I run in most of my cars are stock eliminator, some are super stock. 1 or 2 are super gas. But stock eliminator, some of the rules are just so blatantly twisted and warped from what they were intended to be.
Like what?
Well, like a 67 Fairlane 427 dual quad car had a wonderfully nice fiberglass hood with a nice opening to get fresh air to the motor. They got 390s with a hood on it. They got 427 1.4 barrel. It never came on a 1.4 barrel. 1.4 barrel was a NASCAR car. NASCAR doesn't let them run hood scoops like it. Fiberglass hood scoops like that, excuse me. So, and that's just one example. There's tons of them. There's a guy that's got a fiberglass hood on a 6-pack 440 Cuda right now. It came on a 6-pack Cuda, but it was the TA, the Dan Gurney type, the All-American Racer, the 340 with 3.2 barrels, the small carburetor.
Yeah, right.
He's got it on a 440 with the big carburetors. It ain't legal there. He just wants it there to get weight off the front of the car. But NHRA and him have been bickering on this for 4 or 5 years. He's been running it. You're the sanctioning body. You say, no, you can't run it. Why are you bickering? No problem, Sonny. Show up with it again, you can go home with it.
You're the dad.
Yes. Somebody's got to put their foot down. And there's a group of new people that start looking at a whole bunch of stuff, and there was racers panicking. At the beginning of the year, one guy said, I went to bed with an A-stock car and woke up with a C-stock car. That's because they never put that motor in the lightweight body. You need to put back that motor in the body it was supposed to be in and run with a steel hood and all the rest of it. Another thing is there's a whole bunch of Oldsmobiles. They've got aluminum under, hood's a two-piece deal. It's a stamped lower piece, and then the braces are put together like that.
Yeah.
In Canada, for fuel economy, some of the V6s got the aluminum inner part and glued it to that. There's a whole shitload of them running here in the United States with V8s. Never got aluminum brace on Oldsmobile Cutlass like that. And it goes on and on and on and on. I mean, it's ridiculous how many people have twisted and moved. I know one guy that moved the gas tank from one side to the other side and told me, oh, that's a Canadian station wagon. No, it ain't. Even a Canadian station wagon had a gas tank where it belonged on the left side. He wanted it over the right side because he wanted to plant the tire, put more weight on the tire. And in stock, it's one of the few classes that are limited. You're only allowed 9-inch wide. So that's why stock and super stock cars do the big wheel stands, because they have to put so much pressure on the rear tires to hook. I mean, I'd much rather go forward than up.
Yeah.
Go faster. But until you initially get going forward or up, you have to go up to plant them. But it's just stuff like that. And I'm sure every category has its own, crying towel to use. But
yeah. Welcome to Mopar.
Oh, Mopar, my God. Those people are so lovely to work for. I had a riot working for them. I really did. And they had most of them had their heart in the right place. They really wanted to be, there's always the one or two guys that, why are we wasting our money on drag racing,
Yeah.
But the lawyer.
Hello, bean counter.
They gave me a lawyer one time to take to a race in Reading. No, it wasn't a race. It was a Mopar. I don't remember the exact terminology, but it was this all Mopar car show and drag race at the Maple Grove Dragway. And he went around with a sheriff and impounded all kinds of...
What?
Well, Mopar is a registered name. If you use it without a license, they not only sue you, they take all the product you had manufactured with their name on it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Right, I got you.
Yeah. But I hated that job. I told him, I ain't doing this no more. Well, you have to. I said, you do realize you're 180 pounds and I'm 300. How about I just sit on your lap for a minute and we'll talk about this? Well, who else is going to do it? I don't know. Your lawyer gets paid. You must have somebody else gets paid. Send that nit with him. Because I ain't going to... These are people I got to... When we leave here, I'm going to see them next week at Chicago or something. And they're going to say, you're the right-ass bastard that came and took Billy Joe's stuff. Billy Joe's got to get rid of that moonshine thing anyhow. But the point is, there are times with any customer that you're not going to like the job. But you can have some fun, too. I was in my office one day and the phone rings. And, hey, he says, have you, one of the engineers, have you seen our new ad yet? I said, no. Well, we emailed it over this morning. I said, well, I haven't seen it yet. I'll look at it. Hold on. Or better yet, let me call you back. And the tech department... See, I had 16 people that did nothing but answer phones for me for 16 years.
How many?
16 people, 16 years. 8 of them answered Mopar calls and 8 of them in a Tenneco. Tenneco would have been Dynamax, exhaust, Rancho shocks, and their 2 OEM brands. We answered question what fit what and, what it'll gain and what it'll, Anyhow, I called one guy upstairs and said, anybody seen an ad from Mopar? Yeah, I'll bring a copy down to you. I called him back. It was Larry Shepard.
Ooh.
Shep.
Nice.
Shep, I got 2 problems with this ad. I know, you don't like that manifold charge for a penny, right? I said, absolutely. I said, why do you have to do that? It just seems, if it was $20 or something, I could see it. But a penny, he says, we don't know how to get them out of inventory. All right, he says, but other than that, it's a good ad. I said, no, I told you there's 2 problems. Well, what's the other problem? I said, I don't particularly like the small block Chevrolet pictured. What? The heads are small block Chevrolet. Oh, my God. He's from Maine. Oh my God. Let me call you back. I got to get the ad canceled. We've already contacted Hot Rod and Carcraft and approved it. Brilliant.
Mopar had a picture of a small block Chevrolet.
Cylinder heads. And nobody noticed it.
How?
The people that knew the difference didn't look, and the rest of the people wouldn't have known what to look for.
It's got to clear so many different levels for a national ad to go out. Nobody noticed
story.
it wasn't a W-2?
I did not make it up. It is a true story. I see Ship every other Wednesday for dinner, and he and I laugh about it once or twice a year.
I mean, how fast were those phones burning? You know, get this gone.
The other neat thing about that is we used to go to Reading, and none of the women wanted to go to drag races. It's hot, it's smelly, it's terrible. Yeah. Everybody wanted to go to Reading. They called it the Shopping Nationals. You got all those outlet malls there. One time, and here again, this is a true story, I had a Chrysler minivan, and we were over there, and they all, full-size vans, minivans, they all come over Sunday morning with everything they bought, been storing in their rooms for the last 4 days. We got my 18-wheeler just packed to the back door, and Shep says, wow, we just barely made it. What about the minivan sitting over there, Shep? What do you mean we just barely made it? We did not have room to put my own car, our to and from the motel car, in the thing. But I caught one of the racers that I knew and said, hey, you got extra bodies with you? Yeah. I said, how about taking that van back to Michigan? I'll get it from you Tuesday or Wednesday, something like that. But they outbought my trailer. But there's this one woman who had a husband who was tall and thin and couldn't find jeans anywhere for him. And she would buy like 48 pair of jeans because at the outlet mall they had them. I don't know what guy had to be a foot and a half taller than me, and she couldn't find jeans around here for him. So she bought 48 pair a year. Or not that year, not necessarily every year, but
48 pair
of blue jeans.
Hopefully the guy doesn't gain weight. Oh, well.
Not my problem. Split it in the back, wear a belt. I know these things. Many a time I've taken a razor blade between the two loops in the back. What are you going to do? I could quit eating, but then, what would I complain about?
Okay, well, Sam Posey, and your name comes up a lot. Evidently with the stuff they were doing with 5000, it's amazing if you take a look at the McCormack stuff and things going on. Everything that with tires and not just drag racing, but with all the other, when we're talking about Can-Am and all that. I mean, do the new tire guys show up to you and say, look, Jack, we got this winter tire. Wait till you see this. You'll love it. Or did they ask you?
No. Occasionally I would get calls about performance, a white letter tire or something like that. Recently, probably about 4 months ago, I got a call about a new drag front tire that's 17-inch diameter. And I thought, well,
17-inch.
The problem is these new cars, like that new Last Chance or Last Call.
Oh yeah,
the brakes are so big you have trouble getting 15-inch over them. So now they're going to, and this was a guy that's building a new Ford. Apparently the Mustang has the same problem. He had me order a pair of 17-inch front wheels, 17 by 4, I think it was. Told my daughter, here, handle this, get these on order. She said, Pops, do you have any idea how much these two wheels are? Don't care. He said, get them whatever. You might want to listen. I'm listening. $1,700 for two wheels. He ain't got no lug nuts. He ain't got no tires yet. He ain't got no valve stem. $1,700. And I said something to him, and somebody from Ford called and said, are you refusing to get wheels? I said, his father is a dear friend of mine. If I had to whittle him out of goddamn wood, I'd get him for him. I'm just saying $1,700 is ridiculous. I can remember in the old days when things were slow and I want to pump up sales at my store, sell a pair of Blems for $99 a piece for a 15 3.5 weld race wheel. See, I had a working relationship with Greg Weld. There actually was a person named Weld. The wheel wasn't named out the welding function. It was his real family name, Weld. Anyhow, Greg would call me, and he was devious, shall we say, at times. He managed to get himself in a little bit of trouble every here and there. Matter of fact, he and his brothers all spent time in prison, but
beyond that, nice guy.
He was a good guy. I mean, I went and visited him in '81, and I was on my way to Denver, and he says, "I'll just leave your trucks and everything here. Take the key to my car and go to the barbecue place. Tell them to put it on my account." I called him and said the lunch was wonderful. I truly appreciate your buy-in, but what do you mean, but? But we need a ride. Your Imperial won't start. That was back when they tried to do fuel injection and gave up after 1 year. They had the cure for it was an intake manifold and carburetor.
For the Imperial?
Dealer, yep, Chrysler Imperial. 1981, the fuel injection was. They couldn't get the electronics right. They finally gave up and changed them all over to carburetors.
That was a beautiful car too. I mean, that was
very swoopy in the back. Yeah, his was charcoal gray, and it was very nice. He had somebody do some hero over in Kansas City did pinstriping on it for him. I didn't particularly like pinstriping on a luxury car, but he did.
But I mean, that was especially when Chrysler brought that thing out, it was a radical departure of what they had. Yeah. I mean, the folks that were lucky enough to get the Sinatra edition, you know. But I mean, that swoopy front end and the doors ajar. Yeah,
but you got to remember back in those days, it had genuine Corinthian leather too.
On your Cordombas.
What more could you ask for than the boss himself from Paradise Island or whatever it was, selling your interiors? If you have to, buy the rest of the car too, in case you need to get somewhere. But, Weld was priceless. You know what factoring is?
What?
You know the term factoring?
Yeah, to factor in, yeah.
Like in business, truckload?
Factor, yeah.
Okay, you sell a truckload of product to somebody, you call the bank and said, I just sold $100,000 this guy here, I want to borrow 80%. You borrow 80% of what's due. When he writes the check, it goes to the bank. They take their money back and charge you a percentage how long they've had the money. I got a call one day, and this is the bank saying, well, you're past due on your order. What order would that be? Well, you ordered 6 trailer loads of wheels from Weld Wheel, and you've only paid for half of them. I got a news flash for you. I only bought half of them. What are the other 3 trailer loads of? Oh, that's our Star Wire. They're very proud of that. And I'm thinking, yeah, it makes a gorgeous boat anchor because they won't balance down around, and you can't hardly get a chain on them good to make a boat anchor out of them, but it's at least something you can do with them. Said, there ain't no day in hell that I would buy any wire wheels from Weld Wheel. Now, I buy their dually wheels knowing that 1 out of 8 is going to be bad, but I'm still doing okay, you know. And the people pay me labor when they come back to have it taken off and put a new one on, and he pays the freight back to him. But all that part's fine, but no wire wheels. Well, you bought 3 full trailer loads. You're out of your mind. I didn't buy a goddamn single one. And he had, on paper, created invoices and everything, billed me, sent the paperwork to the bank, and got 80% on all 3 trailers.
Ooh.
I think that was probably the final blow when they decided they'd give him some rest and relaxation.
Yeah.
in the behind the bars.
Yeah, I have the small window. Yeah.
But it was a good plan as long as it lasted. I mean, he had nerve. You got to give him credit for that.
Yeah, well, and guess what else? He's got a number now.
Yeah, no sense saying, oh, you got 50 wheels. 3 trailer loads, it's about 3,000.
He'll say, yeah. Jack's easy guy.
Oh, yeah, I'll cover it for you.
Jack, I mean,
I'll go to prison for you. We'll sit side by side.
Don't worry about a thing.
And every day I'll see if your head fits through the bars. But
favorite wheel you ever sold? One that you just loved and it was just like, this is...
I still sell them to this day.
What's that?
The Crager SS.
I love you.
It's a classic wheel. It's perfect. I just watched the auction on television yesterday, Mecum auction, and there were several cars went through, including the 70 Barracuda custom car built by Chuck Miller Style Line Customs right here in down Riverview, Riverside, whatever that is. I can't remember the town he's in, but anyhow, Chuck built this Plymouth Barracuda for Chrysler Corporation, and it had 15.6 on the front, and I think it was 12 I got him for the rear. I didn't get. He called them, and they said, "Let Wheel City know when you know what's going to fit." I just called. I went over to help measure him up. Style Line Customs, that was the name of his business. I helped him measure. We ordered 6 for the front and 12-inch real deep in the back, and that car was sold yesterday at Mecum auction with the same wheels still on it.
And still find chrome on it.
The chrome didn't peel, didn't chip. You know, they did good work at Crager.
What happened? I mean, because
Rudka bought it.
Who did?
Joe Rudka, the guy that owned Mr. Gasket.
Ah.
And he's one of them people. There's always more money to be made if you cut a few corners here or there.
Oh.
He did so good when his first operation was making gaskets for his own race car. He had a gasser, and he kept burning the header gaskets out.
Yeah.
So he decided that he would create a gasket that wouldn't burn out. And he found a material, and he did it, and he did it on his mother's kitchen table. And the first major expense for the company was a new kitchen table.
Thanks, Mom. Yeah.
Razor blades cut the shit out of that thing. But that's where Mr. Gasket got started, actually making gaskets for his own gasser.
So it really was a Mr. Gasket.
Oh, yeah, he's it.
Wow. And then he took over this.
Oh, at one point he had like 30 different companies. He had Corsa exhaust, he had Excel ignitions, Crager wheels, Keystone wheels.
Crager
tire,
and Keystone?
Yeah, he bought both of them. He had a tire company, Roger Ward Tire, some name like that. Oh, no, the other one was Positraction. He owned Positraction Tire. Yeah, because he called me one day and said, "Can you come down and visit with me?" I said, "Yeah, in about 2 weeks." He said, "That'd be good enough. I just want to talk about next year." And he said, "I bought 2 trailers a year and a half ago." I said, "Okay." And they're sitting in Columbus, Ohio. We were in Cleveland. He said, "I'm going to give DeVore free rein on one to build, turn it into a display trailer, go to NHRA and some other shows and SEMA, that sort of thing. And I want you to take the other one and do the wheel and tire end of it. I want you to do Positive Traction, Crager, and Keystone." I said, "Okay." So DeVore went and got his. I went and got mine. DeVore took it, put it inside the building in Cleveland, had all the staff there. You know, I don't know how many people. We worked on ours nights and weekends because we still had to run the wheel and tire thing and that. I was at 3 national events ahead of him before he got done. And Rutgers chewing his butt out. DeVore said, "Thanks a lot. So why didn't you communicate with me that you weren't done yet? I could have drug my feet longer. I didn't know."
Yeah.
You know, I didn't make any money till I got to the race and started selling. So I went to the race, started selling. But DeVore's a good guy. He and I still get along. He's he and Bob Wyman were like brothers when we were doing all this stuff. And Bob Wyman's father worked for Boots Mallory when they started Mallory Ignition right here in Detroit.
Wow.
And then they hired Bob to work the thing. So DeVore did the clutches, and Wyman did the magnetos and everything for Mallory and distributors. And then they had some salespeople who did all the trinkets and trash, the gasket. Well, Mr. Gasket had a lot of stuff. I mean, lots of stuff. And it was fun, except that sometimes the two Bobs couldn't quite determine what time 8 o'clock in the morning was. So we go out there, I get my trailer open, leave one of my guys there, go open the other one, and I left a clutch last night. Well, here it is here, but there's no price on it. If I knew the guy, it's like, take your clutch, come back and settle up with them. If I didn't, you have to wait till they get here. They'll be here shortly. Where are they? I don't know what the delay is. Well, how'd you get in here? I'm on damn keys. You still ain't getting a clutch. Go away. You know? And they'd each show up, and they bring out a bottle of 151 proof vodka. Each of them. Oh, yeah, the boys. I mean, by the time we went to the final race in California, what the hell was that track? They shut it down in...
Lions?
Pardon me?
Lions?
Lions, right, Lions. Final race. They show up, the girls are 8 years. They each have a girl. They're each named Nicole, and they're both 8 years old. The boys leave to go wander around, say goodbye, and shake hands and cry because they're losing the racetrack. All of a sudden, I realized it's like 7 o'clock at night, and I said to the girls, have you had anything to eat? We had brownies this afternoon. So I get one of my employees, say, just sit here. Somebody comes and wants an ignition clustering, tell them, go away, we ain't doing it tonight. So I took the two of them over and got them hamburgers and fries. Can we have candy? After you eat your hamburger and fries and drinks and all that.
What a good guy.
And they're like, you know, even with the candy, sugared up. So I took them up to my truck, opened it up, put them in the sleeper, laid them down on the mattress, covered them with a blanket, locked it up, and went back to the trailer. DeVore and Wyman show up about 11:15 and 11:30 at night. You seen our daughters?
Who?
Yeah, short girls about this tall, right? Yeah, where are they? With you.
There.
What? Didn't you take the kids when you left? Oh, we didn't think we were going to be gone that long. I said, oh. Have you called your wives? What do you mean? Well, you're here, they're not here. Don't you think you ought to let your wives know? Oh shit, no. Well, Bobby, we got to figure something out here. Finally, I told them where their daughters were and give them back. And then
give them back?
Yeah. And then they went to college about 10 years later, and one of them called me. DeVore's daughter called first and said, we've gone to college, but, you know, Daddy ain't got much money. And we're sharing a room with 3 other girls, both of us, and we don't have a TV. So I called the LA store, and I had a right-hand guy out there, big Japanese boy, Donnie Munisata. Said, Donnie, go get me a color TV and run it over and drop it off at college where DeVore's daughter is. She calls to say thank you and says, Nicole Wyman doesn't have one either. Donnie, go back to the store, buy another color TV, and go to this other. But anyhow, what's a TV? It ain't that much, you know. I learned a lesson on that too. One of my employees, we called him Van. Gary, but we had 4 Garys at the store in Dearborn.
Called him Van?
His last name was Vanderwill.
Okay.
So we called him Van. And he got the bright idea he wanted to go in a different business, and he went and opened up Discount Video.
Oh, small, yeah.
168 stores before it was over.
Yeah.
There was like 43 of them he owned, and the rest were franchised. But they still had to buy from him. He showed me a check one time from Sony, which is their primary source, TVs, videos, and all, video machines and all that, cassettes, whatever you want to call it. $1.2 million a year. That was a warehouse's kickback from Sony. Plus the money he made throughout the year selling the others and all that. Took me in his office and he says, see this? And there's 3 walls. Each got 4 high file cabinets, like 5 on each wall.
Yeah.
Just pick a drawer, any drawer. Full of 5s and 10s and 20s. He said, what am I going to do with all this?
What am I going to do with all this?
You've got a wife, don't you? Why are you asking me? Wives are the best one to ask how to get rid of money. He says people rent a tape, they bring it back. So you're 5 days late, that'll be $10. They throw the 10 down and get mad and they leave. When has anybody ever asked for a receipt for renting a videotape? Have you ever asked for a receipt? He had drawers full of cash he didn't know what to do with until he got divorced.
Yeah, and guess where those things went to?
Well, his lawyer called and said, Van, we're going to have a problem with his divorce. He said, what do you mean? So you've been showing an income of like $25,000 a year for years. Yeah. He says, you own a house in Detroit? Yeah. You own one in Florida? Yeah. You got a cottage up north? Yeah. You've got a boat on the river, yeah. You got a boat up north, and you got a boat in Florida. This judge is going to take one look at all your assets and say, how the hell do you do that on 25 grand a year? And Van says, you know what? That bitch ain't that bad after all. And they did not get divorced.
The words amazing. One last question really quick.
Okay.
Again, if we were, because now we're thinking of Keystone, because Sox Martin ran all Keystone all the time and stuff like that, and the big fight between Keystone and Crager on the fan side, you know, was like forever, you know. However, now, if you started your own RA for drag racing, your own racing association, the top 3 things that you would have, that you would put in there, you know, it's like, look, this is my drag racing association. It's McCormack Drag Racing. Here's how it's going to go, guys. You know, because I know that you said about the thing about, you know, people were trying to skirt the issue of, like, we knew this, you know, hood didn't go here.
If you wanted to do something like that, 2 things that come to mind immediately. First, you've got to have some place to race. So you've got to get with the track owners and see if they'd be willing to race your association. Without a track, you ain't going nowhere. And on the other hand, you're going to have really strong insurance, because track owners rely on the sanctioning body they represent to supply the insurance. Because they went on an individual and said, hey, I'm, you know, ABC Racetrack, and I'm opening in Podunk, Iowa, and the insurance company say, we don't want nothing to do with you. As soon as you say racing, they get nervous. You say drag racing, they get even more nervous. And if you say we allow the kids to come in on Wednesdays and Tuesdays and race their street cars, they lose their feeble-ass minds. So first you need insurance to make you a sanction body. Then you need the race tracks that'll go to the sanction body. And after that, God knows how much money and publicity, and you're going to have to work with some of the names in the sport to get them to recommend you and all that. It's just... a good example is this dumb hat that we're having a ball with right now. Like I told you before, when I was a general manager of Wheel City, I had a Wheel City team. And then when I had Jack McCormack Racing, we had that. And then I went to McCormack Motorsports. The race cars all say McCormack Motorsports on them. But this, what does this say?
Does it?
Yes, it does. What do you think it says?
Yeah.
What's the first letter?
C.
What's the next 3?
NYL.
Dial. At my age, my new race team is Senile Racing. You do not need to own a car. You need to remember your last car at least 3/10 faster than you could produce a time slip for. 10 mile an hour better than your time slip will also be good. And we're having a ball. It's like you asked me, getting together with Al or getting together with Cavalier on the dinners. It's all the same thing. I'm the only one honest about it. Senile Racing, that's the whole damn lot of us are. And I'm seriously thinking, I went to lunch with a friend of mine who happens to be a lawyer. Well, was a lawyer. He gave up practice last year. I'm thinking of going ahead and just do this Senile and do it CNILE and register it. And maybe I'll run an ad drags or say, join my race team. You don't need a race car. You just need to be old and crazy. Hey, this is the country that paid for rocks in a box.
Yeah,
rock.
That's true.
This
for
is
$1
each. Sold a stuffed goddamn doll, and for another $5 you could get a birth certificate for her. This is the country where you take a $25 pair of Levi's, put a bunch of stitching on a woman's ass, and they pay $150 for them. Don't tell me senile racing wouldn't work in America. We are the dumbest country in the world. We pay a reasonable amount of money for everything we do. We're crazy.
And what a better way to end it. Thanks so very much, Jack. Honest to God, man. It's like, now you understand the reason why we had Jack McCormack. I mean, we didn't even get to why the Shadowoods paint job isn't real. Until that time, thank you so very much for being with us and being with CKiW, the only station that gives a damn about the greatest sport on earth. And of course, that is us, CKiW Radio 76.